In this Workbench video, I'll be talking about making the Serpent. Yes, the Serpent of Paradise for an upcoming film by musician, writer and filmmaker Fabian Rush, where Eden, Adam and Eve, as well as Lilith and the Serpent will play an important, if somewhat satirical role. This puppet is certainly not the first of its kind. Most famous of all serpentine creatures are probably Harryhausen's Medusa from Clash of the Titans. And then we have the Serpent Man from Dreamscape, animated by, I believe, Steven Serkas and Ernest Farino. But since Fabian wanted the Serpent to have a cobra hooded neck, my puppet actually looks quite a bit like the Dreamscape Snake Man, though I tried to add some original features of my own making. I started with sculpting the front of the head and the hooded neck down to what would be the chest area in medium grade monster clay. As I mostly do, I'm here using very small loop tools to create the details. And I'm simply using my index finger dipped in a bit of Vaseline to smooth out the rough areas. I'm building a clay wall around the sculpture so I can pour dental plaster around it. I've removed the teeth, tongue and horns for the casting. I just put them on the sculpture to have a grasp of the full concept while sculpting it. A pipe cleaner helps whip around the plaster so there won't be any big air pockets in the mold. Out goes the clay, so the latex can go in. I always paint on the first layer of plaster when making a mold over sculpture, but I also paint in the first layer of latex, so there will be a minimum of air bubbles. I use a sponge, or as in this case, a pipe cleaner. I only use latex 2-3 layers of it for my puppet skins, but for the head part of each latex cast I also apply cotton mixed with latex, as I'm doing here, to give the head more support. I can't have the heads being too soft or they'll get deformed when I add thermoplastic later to create the skull for the armature. Getting the latex and cotton mix to dry properly when it's placed so deep inside a mold is problematic, but I use a shoe dryer with a tube funneling the hot air into the mold, and that takes care of the issue. The horns are made out of cotton and latex and are attached using liquid latex. This puppet only has 2 limbs, 2 arms that are very human. The hands are aluminum wires held together with polymer thermoplastic. Bending the tips of the fingers helps keep the rubber skin from poking through and slipping off the wires. I'm dabbing contact cement on the wires, and then I'm using what I think is crochet yarn to create a soft wrapping around each finger. This is then covered with latex. I'm also using latex and cotton to create a fleshy looking palm for the hand. The armature will mainly be attached to the head. From that point the rest of the armature will grow, so to speak. I'm using a Sharpie to mark how far the armature wire will go into the head skin. More yarn is wrapped around these wires to press them together. The plastic tube here was once a protective covering for a watercolor brush. I've added a blob of hot melt glue to one end and cut the other end at an angle. This tube will become the chute, if you will, for the darting tongue of the serpent. Contact cement is used to attach it to the jaw of the puppet. And here's some thermoplastic being melted with a hot air gun. It's going inside the skull and also into the jaw. An aluminum wire is attached between the skull and the jaw to create a joint. When the thermoplastic cools, it will be firmly embedded. To create stability for the hood, I'm attaching thin polyurethane to it. First dabbing latex to the back of the skin, and then the foam is given the same treatment. To make the two surfaces stick together faster, I'm drying the latex with a bit with a heat gun. Here's how the tie-down was created for this puppet. It's only got one, and it's placed roughly at the end of the first quarter of the body's length measured from the head. The body armature is a single piece of armature wire about 4 mm thick. As I'm always doing nowadays, I'm using a T-nut for the tie-down. And I'm attaching it to the aluminum wire using a mix of super glue and baking soda. I'm building up a bit of bulk on the aluminum wire using thick but soft yarn. The yarn is there mostly to create a base for easy attachment of the next material, which is a wrapping of thin polyurethane foam. Over the wrapping I attach a long piece of foam to smooth out the general shape. The hood is also fleshed out with foam. Thermoplastic is used to attach the arms to the headpiece. I wanted really sinewy, lanky arms on the Serpent, and those are built up using cotton covered with latex. The torso and the rest of the body are joined together using thermoplastic. I have to wet my fingers with spit before I touch the plastic, or I'll burn myself. To create the skin, I'm using a plaster cast I made over a bit of snake-scaled vinyl. Tinted latex is applied using a sponge, and after about 2 applications I can remove the latex and attach it to the foam body of the puppet. Liquid latex is used as a glue, and I have to keep check when attaching the skin so it's angled the right way to look like the scales are actually following the shapes of the body. A separate skin with a segmented look has been attached to the belly, and I'm now using a pointy tool and tinted latex to create a more organic looking join between the two skin surfaces. I'm giving the puppet a base color using tinted latex, which is sponged on. The belly and other parts of the body are given a different color. Then I'm actually giving the skin a metallic sheen using a light brushing of silver Warhammer paint. This is to create that slightly artificial sheen that snakes have on their scales. Super glue is used to attach the fangs, made from thermoplastic, to the gums of the mouth. I have 2 small indentations in the gums where the teeth will go. Lastly, I'm applying some glossy accents plastic to the eyes to create a lens effect, and also some to the nostrils to make them look wet and alive. I forgot to say that the tongue is made from a tiny bit of aluminum wire covered with string and latex. It slips into that jaw canal made from the plastic tube, but can be removed when it's not needed. That's Mr. Serpent, waiting to be animated. I hope you found something useful in this video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.